So before discussing about AEM component, let's discuss about JCR repository. The full form of the JCR is Java Content Repository. Java Content Repository, and it will be a part of AEM server. Once you install AEM server, this repository will be available in your local file system. So you don't need to create manually this JCR repository, and we don't need to connect this JCR with the AEM server. JCR is an inbuilt repository inside AEM. Then what is the use of this JCR? JCR full form is Java Content Repository. It will be useful for the storage purpose. Storage means it will act as a database in the AEM server. It will act as a database in the AEM server. So whenever you create a page by using Sites console, there is multiple console we already gone through. Sites console is one console, and page editor console, and assets console. When you when you add a new content by using these consoles, this data will be stored into the JCR repository. These consoles are the user interfaces. It will be useful to create content easily without writing any code. Without writing any code, we can create the content. But if we use Sites console to create the pages, or if you use page editor to edit the content of the pages, or if you upload any assets, internally it will store into the JCR repository. JCR is very important module in AEM. It will be useful to store the data. The data like content pages or assets. Assets mean again images, documents, and videos. Even code also will store into the JCR repository. Just remember, JCR is for the storage purpose. It will act as a database in AEM. The best example for unstructured database for the unstructured database is our file system. Our file system also one database because we are storing the data into the file system. In our file system, always start with one folder. For example, D drive. So that is the root folder for the D drive. D is the root folder for the D drive. Inside the D drive, there will be multiple folders. Again, inside the folder, again, we'll have the multiple folders. So file system is one unstructured database, or also called tree structured database, because it will start with one root folder and it contains multiple folder, and again this folder contains subfolder. We can't define a particular structure for the databases. So that's why JCR also one of the unstructured or tree structured database. We can't define the structure here. It will start with one folder and it contains multiple subfolder. Again, this subfolder contain child folders. So here the JCR is one unstructured or also called tree structured database. It will be useful to store the data. In JCR, everything stored in the form of nodes and properties. So if you take any relational databases like RDBMS, like Oracle database or MySQL database, all are relational databases. In the relational databases, data will be stored in the form of tables. But in JCR, data will be stored in the form of nodes and properties. In the previous session, we have created a page by using Sites console, right? That page also stored in JCR repository in the form of nodes and properties. Even we have uploaded some images. Those images also will be stored in JCR repository in the form of nodes and properties. Everything stores in the form of nodes and properties in JCR repository. If you use any console, these consoles are the user interfaces. It will be useful to create the content in AEM server. That content will be stored in JCR repository in the form of nodes and properties. So how to access this JCR repository? So this is one inbuilt module inside AEM. How to access this JCR repository? To access the JCR repository, Adobe provided one console called CRXDE. Go to localhost 4502 CRX/DE. So this is one console. By using this console, we can access the JCR repository. This is an editor. It will be useful to edit the content inside the JCR repository. So basically, this is one editor. It will be useful to edit the content of the JCR repository. In two ways, we can edit the content. One is by using these consoles, sites console, page editor console, and assets console. And second way is by using CRXDE. This is one browser console. From the browser console, we can create a new content, edit the content, delete the content. All code operations we can perform by using CRXDE. You are making changes in CRXDE. Internally, the content will be modified in JCR repository. Internally, content will be modified in JCR repository. Let's access this CRXDE. Let's access this CRXDE. CRXDE. Check this entire hierarchy. This is one tree structure. Start with one root folder and it contains multiple childs. And again, the child will contain multiple subchilds. And the subchild contain again multiple subchild. So we can't define a particular structure for this JCR repository because JCR is one unstructured or tree structured database. Unstructured or tree structured database. By default, these many folders are available. So here slash is a root folder. Inside the root folder, there are some important folders are available. Inside the root folder, apps is very important folder. Apps is very important folder. All our custom code will write under apps only. Custom code like components creation, client library creation, all the front-end related custom code will write under apps folder. And there is one more folder called libs folder. We should not touch this folder. Libs means library. All the AEM implementation would be available in the libs. We should not make any changes in the libs folder. If you make the changes in future, if the server is upgraded to new version, your changes will be removed from the libs. So that's why not recommended to make any changes in the libs. So in the libs contains all the AEM default implementations. And next one is content. This folder is very important. It will be useful to store the content. So here the content is nothing but web pages and assets and content fragments and experience fragment and tags and forms. Everything will be stored under content in JCR repository. Slash is a root folder. Inside the slash, these are the subfolder. Apps is a folder to write the custom code. Libs is a folder for out-of-box implementation. Out-of-box means default implementation. Content is a folder to store the content, both web pages, assets, content fragment, experience fragments, tags, and forms. And there is multiple different type of content to be available. All the content we can store under content on. Even in the previous session, we have created iPhone 15 features, right? That page also will be stored here only. Because that is a web page. That web page also stored under content only. Even we have uploaded one image by using sites console. That asset also will be stored in the content folder only. Content folder only. And next important one is conf folder. Conf folder. And this conf store the configurations and templates. So I will explain later about this conf folder. So basically all the editable template will place inside this conf folder. And this folder also important one. Conf folder, all the configurations and templates and workflow related information will store in the conf folder. And there is one more out-of-box implementation folder is available, etc. etc also related to out-of-box. So majority of the cases we don't use libs and etc. In the etc, it contains out-of-box implementation as well as some configurations. But majority of the cases we don't touch this libs folder and etc folders. Mainly we work on apps, content, and config. And there is one more folder called var folder. The runtime data will be stored here. Runtime data will be stored here. We'll discuss later about this folder. So these are the important folders are available in JCR repository. You have to remember each and every folder, and you should know the purpose of each folder. I'm repeating again, apps is for custom implementations. If you want to add any custom code, basically in the apps will store the code. Code will be stored under apps, libs, and etc. And content will be stored. Content is different and code is different. Content will be stored under content folder and conf folder and var folders. Var folders. Code is different and content is different. The best example for the content, web pages, assets, content fragment, experience fragment, tags, and forms of the content. Code means we'll write the code. So that is HTML code, CSS code, JavaScript code, or HTML code. HTML code will write inside these folders. Inside these folders, mainly we use apps for the custom implementations. Custom implementation. We have to remember all these folder names: app folder, libs folder, etc folder, content folder, conf folder, and var folder. Let's go to the content folder because we have created iPhone 15 features web page in the second session. Let's see how the content is stored in the content folder. Content is the folder. Expand the content. And weekend is the project. Language master, en, and magazines. In this location, we have created a page. If you remember the second session, we have created a page by using sites console. Scroll down and see this is the page. It won't store as HTML file. If you create a page in AEM, it won't store as a HTML file. It will store as a node only. Everything is a node. It may be a page or asset or component or template or configuration. Everything is a node in JCR reporter. It won't store as a .html file. It won't store as a .html file. But if you click on this node, and click on this properties tab, there is a tab called properties tab. Click on this properties tab and we'll see the properties of this node. In the left hand side, all are nodes. In the left hand side, all are nodes. Even folder also a node. Folder also one type of node. Even this page also one type of node. iPhone 16 features is a node name. And this is the location in JCR report. In this location, the page is created. Content, weekend, language icon master, en, magazine, iPhone 16 features is the location. In this location, we have created a page by using sites console. You have to remember one more property for every node. That property name is JCR primary type. When you click on this node and open this properties tab, you'll find out one property called JCR primary type. This property is mandatory for every node. This property is mandatory for every node. This property will be useful to define the type of the content. This property will be useful to define the type of the content. For example, here iPhone 16 feature is a node. The primary type of this node is page. So based on this property, we can decide the type of the content. So this is a web page. This is the web page. Inside this web page, it contains multiple child nodes. Content is mandatory child node and root and container, and these many components we have used inside this page. Title, text, and image and breadcrumb. These are the components inside the page. If you remember, we have added these components in iPhone 16 features. Even if you use page editor and make some changes, those changes will be stored in JCR repository one. So those are the editor or consoles, and those consoles will be useful to create the content in JCR repository. So in the JCR repository, everything stores in the form of nodes only. Even we have uploaded one image. All the images, documents, and videos will store under a DAM. The full form of the DAM is Digital Asset Management. Check this location. Content slash is a root folder. Inside content is a folder. Inside DAM is one folder. Inside the DAM, we have created news portal folder. Inside news portal images is a folder. And here we have uploaded these many images. Adobe Analytics.jpg and Adobe Target.jpg, Adobe AEM logo. So these are the different images we have uploaded into AEM server. Just click on it, check the node type. Check the node type. Image node type is DAM:asset. So this node type will change based on the content type. If it is an asset means document, videos, and images. The node type must be DAM:asset. If it is a page, node type must be CK:page. So internally in the JSR repository, based on the type of the content, it will store as a different nodes. It will store as a different nodes. So DAM:asset is a node type for the images, documents, and videos. Adobe Target, AEM logo. Check the node type. When you click on this node, we'll see the properties of the node in the right hand side. The properties will change based on the node. When you click on Apache Web Server, so here the node properties will change. iPhone15.png. So these are the different properties. We can add some custom properties also by using Asset Properties Console. Asset Properties Console. This is about JCR, Java Content Repository. It is for the storage purpose, and it is an unstructured or tree-structured database, and it will store the data in the form of nodes and properties. We have seen the pages and assets are stored in the form of the nodes and properties only. And these are the different important folder inside JCR repository. We don't need to create this folder. When you install AEM server, all these folders and default content would be available in JCR server. Sorry, JCR database, not server. So let me know if you have any questions in JCR side. If you are good, then we'll start discussing about AEM components.
So in the CRXD, we have folders, right?
Yeah, the folders also nodes. If you check
Yeah.
the app folder, for example, click on app folder and JCR primary type is link folder. This is
So
also a node.
even the folder is considered as a node.
Yes,
Okay.
everything is a
Then
node. It may be a folder or content, everything is a node.
then what do you mean by this like three colored icon where it has rep policy? What is that?
So this is also a node. This is also node. It will be useful to store the permissions,
So
users and group
no,
permissions.
is there any like particular thing for this particular representation for this three icon? Why did they represent it like that?
Oh, so basically it is a some of the JSR related nodes are presented with this symbol. If you see here, majority of the content, for example, the pages, see the pages symbol will be different. For the better visualization purpose, they are using different symbols
Okay.
here.
So even the page itself is considered as node. Everything is node, but they are like representation is different.
You're correct.
Okay.
So these are just symbols only to identify the node type without seeing the property.
Yeah, yeah. And also in the code, where you have mentioned that all the code will be stored in the apps, right? So
Yes.
it will be only front end code, not the Java class backend.
Even jar file also stored under apps folder only. But you can't see the Java code. So jar file also is stored under apps folder only. So for example, if you go to apps news portal and oh, sorry, not news portal packages. There is one more folder is created when you deploy the news portal project and application and install. See the jar file is also stored in apps only. But you can't see
Okay.
the Java code of the jar file. So this is the final output of your core model. It will store under
Can you click on that news portal core first one?
the empty file on.
Okay, it's just a file. Okay. So we cannot see the Java class here.
Correct. We can't see. So we can execute it, but we can't see any Java code in AEM directly. So
So
whenever you
we
want,
have only HTML, CSS code in the apps.
yes.
Okay.
Richu, would you explain various these primary types and their importance later on, or we
Yes,
have
yes,
to?
one by one. So for example, in now we are going to start the components, right? In the component section, so I will explain what is the component node type. At the time of the assets concept, I will cover the node type of the assets. And pages we'll discuss in regular way. But yeah, I will cover one by one. So I don't I don't consolidate any list of node types in JSR report, but based on the concept, I will explain the node types.
Thanks.
And also I have seen something called client libs here. What do you mean by that?
Client libs also nodes. Client libs also node. It will be useful to store the CSS and JavaScripts. So if you go to inside these client libraries, we'll find all the required CSS and JavaScript files. So this is a
So,
separate concept. I will cover maybe day 7, I think. Day 7, yeah.
okay.
Sorry, one question. This news portal hyphen packages, have they started showing in AEM Cloud specifically, or we used to see that in the 6.5?
Yeah, AEM Cloud only. So in the 6.5, it will be part of the news portal only. Now it is separated and created a new folder called news portal hyphen packages.
Okay.
Okay, so next concept is AEM component. AEM component also a node in JSR repository. In the JSR repository, we'll store both code and content. A component is a code implementation. It will be available under apps folder. It will be available under apps folder. So we are going to create a new component under apps, news portal components. By default, all the components we should create under apps, news portal components only. Even outside also we can create, but not recommended. For the better organization purpose, we have to create all our components under apps, news portal component folder. Apps, news portal component folder. If you remember in iPhone 15 features.html file, we have added title component, text component, image component to render the content inside that page. Title component will be useful to configure the title. Text component will be useful to configure the description. Image component will be useful to display the images. So based on the content type, we use a different type of the components. Let's say I have one requirement to display the article details. I have one news portal website. In the news portal website, I have the multiple article. In each article, I have to display title and description and image. So for that purpose, I'm going to create one new component. A component also a node in JSR repository. A component also a node in JSR repository. In the left-hand side, one is a node name. While creating the node name, we should not give any special characters except hyphen and underscore. You can use hyphen or underscore. But recommended naming convention for the component name is either camel case or use hyphen or underscore and use all small characters and don't use any capital letters. It will works even if you give the capital letters and special character like the spaces, it works, but not recommended. You should always create a component without any special character except this hyphen and underscore. Here you can use either hyphen and underscore if you have the multiple words in your component name. So in our case, article hyphen details are the two different words in my component name. I have used hyphen. Here you can use either hyphen or you can use camel case. Camel case means first word, first character is small. Second word onwards, first character will be capital. Article, capital D. In the details, capital D is a camel case. Either you can use camel case or use hyphen or underscore with small characters. This is the node name. Node name. But while creating this node, you have to select the JCR primary type as SIG-equivalent component. You have to select component node type is SIG-equivalent. So node JCR primary type is SIG-equivalent component. If you don't select as SIG-equivalent component, it won't work as a component. It's a mandatory. It's a mandatory component node type must be SIG-equivalent component. SIG-equivalent component. Once you create a component node by using CRXDE or by using any editors like VS Code or any editors, you have to add some properties. The first property is JCR title property. And this is for the readability purpose. When you select this node, I will see all the properties in the right hand side. And all these properties are part of article-details node. JCR title is the property name. Value is article-details. This is for the readability purpose. While drag and dropping the component into the page editor, based on this title only, we can identify the component. This is for the readability purpose. You have to give the values as a normal text. Article space hyphen. Article space details. JCR title is one of the required property, not mandatory, but recommended to add JCR title for every component. And JCR description is one more property. JCR description is one more property. This is optional property. If you want to give the detailed description about the component, like usage, if you want to give the detailed description, you can add JCR description property. And second and third and most important property is component group. Component group. So this property is very important property. Without this component, we can't identify the component in the page editor. Without this property, you can't identify the component in page editor. So this will be useful for the grouping purpose. So here, these property names are predefined. We can't change this property name, but these values are the custom values. We can give any value. We can give any value, but the names are predefined. JCR title, JCR description, and component group are the predefined property. We should use the same property names. But values, we can configure different values based on the component, like title and description, and even component group also. This group also a custom value. This group also custom value. But we have to repeat this value based on the type of the component. For example, this is article detail component. I have given value is news portal -articles. But remaining article detail components also have to give the same component group. So this component group will be useful to categorize the component. Let's say if you have 120 component. Out of 120 component, 20 components are related to payments. You have to give the same component group for all 20 components. And 25 components are related to articles. And we have to give same component group value for all 25 components. So this component group will be useful to categorize the components. It will be useful to better component management. So let's create one node and let's add these properties one by one so that you can easily understand how to create a component by using CRXDE. Go to CRXDE, news portal, components. Check the path here. Sometimes as a beginner, you may confuse between the structure, but keep on checking this path here. So at present, we are in apps, news portal, components. And right click on component because I would like to create a new component under component folder. Right click on component, use create node. If we use AM 6.5, we'll see directly one option called create component. But in AIM as a cloud services, that option is not available. We have to create a node. Click on create a node, and first field is component name, article-details, article-details, and second property is type, SIG equivalent component, SIG equivalent component. So this is the node name. The node name we can see in the left hand side. And this is one property, JCR primary type property value, SIG equivalent component. Click on OK. So whenever you create a node or modify the node, you have to save the changes by clicking save all or by using Control S. Even you can use Control S also. Either use Control S or click on save all. Yes. This component has been saved. Then how to add the properties to this component? This component is a node. And if you see here, the node type is SIG equivalent component. SIG equivalent component. The next step, we have to add some properties. JCR title property, JCR title property, and JCR description property, and component group. So these three properties we have to add. Either we can create properties manually by using right hand side property panel. So this is the one property panel, property name and property type and property value, and click on add button. Click on add button to add a property to this component. Check the node. Here we have selected this node and we are trying to add the properties to this node. Let me add manually JCR colon title. The names must be matched with the predefined names. And click on enter. And click on Control S to save this property in this node. To save this property in this node. Done. So we have added the property to this node. And second one is JCR description. So once you add the property, we can modify this value by double clicking here. By double clicking here, we can modify the property. I have given some sample text here. Article title component should be used only in article pages. Title and description. And next one is component group. These properties either we can create manually by using this form or else click on other component. For example, click on accordion component. I have clicked on accordion component. In the accordion components also same properties are available. Values are different. Property names are same. Component group, JCR title, these two properties are available. Even we can copy paste this component group property. So click on accordion and click on this property. Right click on the property, copy the property. And click on accordion, article details. And click on existing properties and paste. And paste and save. Even these properties we can copy paste from other components or else we can create from this property panel. Two options are available. Either we can copy paste, even we can copy paste the multiple properties by using control. So I have selected 4 properties in the accordion component. Copy and click here and paste. All four properties will be copy pasted from accordion to article details. Once you pasted, you can modify by double clicking this value. Just double click on this value section. You can make the required changes. We can make the required changes. So this is the second way to add the properties in the component. Yes, I have created a node and its properties and its required properties. So a component contains multiple child nodes. Article-detail is a component. This is one node and it contains multiple child nodes. One is .html file. article hyphen details.html file and seq design dialog and dialog and edit config. In next session, we'll discuss about the dialog and design dialog implementation and edit config implementation. But as of now, let's create article-detail.html to add the required HTML markup of this section. Article detail is one section in a page. Article detail is not a page. That is one section in a article detail page. If you go to any article detail page in the news portal, we'll see one main body like article title, article description, and article images, article tags. So this content is called article details. So that article detail, the related HTML markup will place in article detail.html file. Don't think this is a complete HTML page. This is a small part of the web page. A component is a reusable module and it is a small part of the web page. So all the required HTML markup which is required for article detail will place in this HTML file. Let's create this HTML file and place some HTML markup to display title and description and image. But while creating HTML markup, you have to use the same component name. Use create file. This is the shortcut. Either you can use create file or you can use create node. For the files and folder, we have the shortcut. Use create file. File name is article-details.html file. The name should match with the component. If you give the different name, it won't execute. So this is one of the common mistake from the beginners. If you give a different name here, it won't execute. The component name should match with this file name, including case and including special characters. The name should match with the component. Now open this HTML file and write the HTML markup to print the title, description, and image. H1 tag, and I'm using one div tag about seller. This is the simple HTML markup, and img tag means to display the image. So images will be available under content, right? Go to the content and copy the image path. Content, DAM, news portal, images. Let's select AEM planning image. Copy the image. This is the source. The image is stored in this location. Copy this path and print here. Save the changes. Save the changes. So this is the simple HTML file I have added to our component. The HTML file contains a required HTML markup to display the article details. And this is not a complete page. This is a small part of the web page. Small part of the web page. It contains only article details. But this is the simple HTML markup. But in real time, we have to write 50 or 100 lines of HTML markup. So moreover, we don't write that HTML markup. Our UIT will provide the HTML markup and we'll use that HTML markup inside this component. Yeah, this is the simple component I have created. Let's add this component into the pages. Go to the sites console, add article detail component into any one of the web pages. Any one of the web pages. Once you create a component, we can add the component at n number of times in different pages, because components are reusable module. Once you implement a component, the same component can be used in different places, means different web pages. News portal USEN. So basically, when you deploy the news portal project, the sample page is also created. We did not create the sample pages. News portal USEN is a sample pages. When you deploy the news portal project from local file system to AEM server, the sample content also will be created. Let me edit EN page. Select the EN page, click on edit. It will navigate to page editor. It will navigate to page editor. This is the page editor with the sample content. Scroll down, you see one placeholder. And this is also a component. Component name is container. Click on, either double click on this drag component here or click on plus symbol and search with article detail component. Search with article detail component, but component is not visible. So this is also a beginner's mistake. This is also one of the beginner's common mistake. If you are not able to see any components in page editor for the drag and dropping purpose, there are two reasons. One is the component doesn't have the dialog. This component doesn't have the dialog. The second reason is that component is not in allowed list. That component is not in allowed list. I will explain later about this allowed list at the time of the editable template, how to allow a particular component into the page editor. I will explain later, but as of now, just remember these two reasons. If any component is not visible to add into the page editor, there will be two reasons. One is dialog is not available at the component. Dialog is not available at the component level. Second reason, that component is not in allowed list. That component is not in allowed list. We will see all the allowed components in the component section. In the side panel, click on this component, and these are the allowed components for the drag and dropping purpose. If you create a new component, we have to allow that component. We have to allow that component for the drag and dropping purpose. But I will cover that later. But let me add dialog in our article detail component. But I don't know how to create the dialog. For the time being, let me copy paste the dialog from other component. Go to Hello World component. Copy the dialog. The dialog is available for Hello World. Copy the dialog. Paste the dialog into article details. Yes, now the dialog is available for article details. Dialog is nothing but a pop-up to configure the content into this component. Content into this component. See, dialog is added. Now refresh the page and try to add article detail component. Refresh the page and try to add article detail component. Now this component is available to add. But we did not allow this component, right? We did not allow this component. Still it is visible because we have used an existing component group. In article detail component, check the component group property. Component group is news portal content. This group is already allowed. So that's why we are able to see article detail component inside the EN. In the upcoming session, we'll create a custom group and I will show you how to allow that group at page editor, I mean at template level to add into the page editor. Let me add article detail component. If you add article detail component, this component will execute. The response of the component will be included here. Wherever you add this component, the component will execute and the response of the component will be added here. See, this is article detail component. Title and description and image. And this title and description image we have hard coded in the component.html file. And this HTML markup, this is the HTML markup we have written inside the component. Component inside the component article-detail.html file, and we have added article detail component in this container. Whenever you add article detail component, That component will execute, the response will be included here. Go to the preview mode, inspect element. See, this is the section of article details. See, H1 tag and div tag and image tag is added. These three statements we have written inside article-detail.html file. The response of article detail component will be included in this space. Let me create some other pages and add the same component. I'll create new page called articles. Inside the article, and let me create article 1, article 2, and article 3. I will create 3 different pages. For testing purpose, I'm creating 3 different pages under articles. The pages has been created. Now select this article 1 and click on edit. And select this article 2, click on edit article 2 page. And similarly select article 3 and click on edit. So I have created 3 pages and opened an editor. And this is the location, content, news portal, USEN articles, article 1. And this is article 2 page and article 3 page. And go to edit mode, add the article detail component. In article 2 also, in article 3 also, add the same component. So similarly, we can use n number of times. If you have 1 lakh article pages, in all 1 lakh article pages, we can drag and drop this article detail component. So there is no limit for the usage. Create component once, reuse the same component in different pages. But if you observe here, in all pages, same content is rendering. Check the article 1, title and description and image. And title and description and same title, same description and same image has been rendered. So this is not the real-time implementation. We should be able to configure different title, different description and different image for every page. So if you are creating one article page, there must be some purpose. And we have to configure related article and related description and related images. For example, so there is a cricket match between India versus Pakistan. We have to create one article. So while creating article, will mention India versus Pak ODI final match. And once the page is created, you will drag and drop article detail component. In the article detail component, you should be able to configure cricket match related title and description and images. But here, the entire content is hard coded. This is not the real implementation. We should make it dynamic. Make it dynamic means we should be able to configure this title and description image from the dialog. From the dialog, we should be able to configure, means update this title and description and image. So that is the next session. In the next session, I will cover how to implement a dialog from the scratch, how to make this content dynamic, both title and description and image. We should be able to configure different title on different pages. Now that option is not available. I'm not able to edit any content on page. When a drag and drop article detail component, title and description image has been displaying, but the same titles and same content has been displaying for all pages. This is not the right implementation. we should make this title and description and image dynamic. And the content authors should be able to configure the titles and description and image from this dialog. This pop-up is called a dialog. If you remember, we just copy paste the dialog from Hello World component to article details. Hello World component to article details. And we should not hard code any content inside the HTML file. So here code is different and content is different. As a developer, you should know which one is the code and which one is the content. In article detail component, this is the code we have written, article-detail.html file. This is the HTML markup we have added. But in this HTML markup, this is a text. Text is a content. And this description also a content. And this image source also a content. So this content we should not hard code. We have to remove from .html file. We have to remove from this .html file. Only the code we should write. Only plain HTML code we should write inside the .html file. Inside the .html file, we should write only plain HTML without content. Without any content. H1 tag, this is HTML statement, divs tag and image tag. I have removed the content from here. Then how to inject different content based on the page? We should be able to inject different title in the H1 tag and different description in the div tag, different image in the src tag based on the page. How to do it? So we will write HTML language. So basically the HTML file contain HTML and HTL. HTML and HTL. The HTL also called Sitely. Sitely is the old name. I will take a separate session on HTL. I will take a separate session on HTL, but as of now, just remember the syntax. Dollar curly braces properties dot article title. This is the syntax. Dollar curly braces is the syntax, and properties dot property name is the syntax to read the property from the content. But I will execute this code in next session. But this is the code we have to write inside the .html file. Without hard coding any content, we have to write HTML and HTL code. And the syntax is HTML syntax. It will be useful to read the article title from the current page, and inject the title into H1 tag. Similarly for article description and article image. So the HTML will be inject data inside HTML language. I will explain in the next session. So before closing this session, let me explain component inheritance. See here, article detail component and hello world component having same dialog. So both are having same dialog. Article detail component and hello world component having same dialog because we have copy pasted the dialog from hello world to article details. So we should not repeat the same implementation multiple pages. This is not the right implementation. Delete the dialog. If we delete the dialog from this component, we can't drag and drop this component now. If you want to try, go to article details in article any one of the articles and try to add that component. See, that component is not available because dialog is mandatory in order to drag and drop component into the pages. Then how to use the hello world dialog? How to use the hello world dialog in article details? So there is one property called Sling Resource Supertype property to create inheritance between article detail component and hello world component. Sling Resource Supertype is a property to create inheritance between article detail component and hello world component. There are two different components in this portal. article hyphen details and news portal. So in this relationship, hello world is the parent component. Article detail is the child component. In the child component, we have to add one property called sling colon resource super type. This resource super type and value is this component path. Either you can use the complete path or relative path. This is the complete path. If you remove /app, this is a relative path. Relative paths are recommended. Relative paths is recommended. This property we have to add in the child component in order to create relationship with the child with the parent. Child with the parent. So in this case, hello world is a parent component, article detail is a child component. Once you create a relationship by using string so super type property, values hello world component path, whatever the resources are available in hello world component, either .html files or dialog or design dialog, edit config, everything will be available to article detail component. Everything will be available to article detail component. So that we can use dialog of this hello world into article detail component without copy pasting because of this relationship. Copy the path from here. Click on article detail component. Resource super type. Save the changes. Sling colon resource super type is the property. I have added in the child component. Article hyphen detail is the child component and value is news portal component hello world. Hello world is a parent component path. Now refresh the page, we can add the article detail component. Refresh the page. See, now component is available to add. Even this component is having description also. This is the description we have added at component level. And this is the JCR title of the component. And this is the JCR description of the component. And this is the component group. Even we are able to access the dialog of hello world. See, this is the dialog from hello world. This article detail component doesn't have the dialog, but still dialog we are able to add. We are able to open because this dialog is rendering from hello world component. Hello world component. So these are the different properties of the component. Let me know if you have any questions. Any questions in component creation or properties?
Jamu, here for article details, we have created a node called CQ dialog. But some of other components, we have a CQ edit config. Like, what is the difference between the CQ dialog and edit config? Is there anything?
I will cover in next session. Okay, so there are 3 different nodes we can create: dialog and design dialog and edit configs. You can find out here. So basically the dialog and design dialog both will be useful for content configuration. I will cover in the next session, even including edit config also.
Okay.
But you have to understand one implementation in AEM. I'm removing this article detail component, inspect element. So this implementation is very important. Inspect element. Go to the network tab. Now add the component. You're adding component from the browser. You're adding component from the browser. So I'm adding the article detail component. So whenever you add article detail component or any other component in a page into a container, one AJAX call, one post request will trigger to the backend AEM server. One request will send to the backend AEM server. And it creates one content node. Let me show you. Click on article detail and check the network calls. This is not the one. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so this is the page. Content, news portal, USEN article, article 2 is the page. So we are editing this page. You can check the page path in the URL. This is the page. Inside this page, there is a container. In this container, we have added article detail component. And check the method type is post and payload. In the payload, you can find out the component. This is the component we have added. This is the component we have added. News portal component article hyphen details. And go to the JCR repository. Go to the JCR repository and go to this page, because in this page we have added article detail component. Go to this page. And this is the page. For every page required JCR content is a mandatory child node under JCR root and content. In this container, again, we have one more container. In this container, we have added article detail. This is not a component. Remember, this is not a component. This is called a content node. This is a content node. The content nodes will store into the page level. So these content nodes will generate whenever you drag and drop a component inside the space. So for example, article 2 is a page and this is the location. In this page, we have added article detail component in this container. This node is created. And check the node properties and node type. Node type is empty unstructured. This is the default node type. And this is not a component. This is one default node type, empty unstructured. And there is one property called sling resource type property. This property also very important property. This property will be useful to connect this content node with the component. This is a content node inside article 2. This is a content node inside article 2 page. And there is a property called sling resource type property. And this property will connect with article detail component. This is the location of the component under apps. Apps, news portal, component, article hyphen details is the location of the component. Location of the component. So these content nodes are very important. Without this content node, we can't access any component. We can't execute any component. Look at here, content, news portal, USEN article is a page. Inside the page, let's assume Jailer movie trailer is the web page. Inside, this is the node structure. This content node will generate whenever you add article detail component. Whenever you add article detail component into Jailer movie trailer. Similar kind of content node will be available in different location. Let's say about Rajnikant also one page. India versus Park also one more page. If you drag and drop article detail component, this content nodes will generate. We will have one component under apps. This is the location of the component. But content nodes are n number of content nodes. There is no limit for the content nodes. If you use 1,000 times, 1,000 different content nodes will generate. This content node will connect with these components by using sling resource type property. Sling resource type property. So don't get confused between content node and component. Components are available under apps, news portal component. This is the component. Component node type is equivalent component. And this is the content node. This content node will generate whenever you drag and drop article detail component into pages. And this content nodes always connect with the component by using sling resource type property. Sling resource type property. When you drag and drop the component, when Ajax call will send to the backend AEM server and it's create this page, create this content node. And in this content node, again, it will add sling resource type property. Let me add few other components also in the same page. title component, text component. I have added 2 more components. Go to CRSD, refresh this container. In article 2, there is a container. See, title is a content node. It is pointing to title component. Text is a content node. It is pointing to text. If you add 10 components inside this container, 10 different nodes will generate. 10 different content nodes will generate, and these nodes will point into the components. So this relationship is very important. Content node to component relationship is very important. I will cover more in details in next session. Let me know if you have any questions here. Any
So,
question?
yeah. So whatever the path we are taking from the parent node, so that will become as a content node in the child one.
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
So we are taking articles hyphen details from news portal, right? So
Yes.
we are considering that as a parent node for Sling resource type.
Yeah, this is the location. So basically, Sling resource type property contain location of your component under apps.
Yeah,
Under
we are
app,
taking this path, right? News portal component. So here we are not calling it as content node.
this is the
I'm sorry.
content node.
Sorry, I'm asking in the under the path of news portal components and article details.
Yes,
We will have component there also, right?
correct. This is the component. This is the component. Apps, news portal component, article event detail. This is the component.
Okay, whenever we are drag and dropping, it will become the content node in the page section.
Yes, it
Okay,
creates a content node.
okay.
So if you add one more article detail component, the same page. Let's say if I add one more time, create one more content node by appending some number.
Okay.
Okay, so there is no limit. In the same container, we can use the same component multiple times. It create one more content node, and this content node also pointing to the same component.
Okay, got it.
So this relationship is very important. This is a content node under a page. You can simply remember if nodes are available in a page or content node, the nodes are available under apps or the components. And this content node always pointing with the component by using Sling resource type property. So you will get more clarity in the next session. We use the component, so component dialog to configure this content, article title and description and images.
So basically, we are creating the component under apps and we are reusing it on the pages.
Page is correct. Same component, right? Same component we are using multiple times. Whenever you use it, it generates one content node in the page level.
Okay.
Two questions, please. Are there more details to component inheritance?
Yes, we use component inheritance more details in the upcoming session. So we have to extend the core component. I will show you what are the features we'll inherit from the core parent component.
Understood. And you showed the content page, or here also we have it, right? The Jailer movie trailer. Then we have JCR content, then root, then container. So you'll later explain, right, how this structure gets created, or
Yeah, as
why
part of
this
the template, I will cover how this structure is generated. Basically, we will define this entire structure at template level.
Okay, thank you.